Hi, my name is James, and I'm a teacher that was recently diagnosed with Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, but without the hyperactivity, so ADD, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a few, and Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, OCD. The OCD I've always known that I've had as a child because I had these compulsions and these weird rituals that I had to, I felt that I had to complete before I did something else, so that wasn't a surprise to me. But the ADD, and really that's an outdated term from what I've learned. It's just ADHD now, but I am ADHD without the hyperactivity, the inattentive type. So individuals who are quiet, or they might be mistaken for as shy, etc. That's what I have. But I'm just going, for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to say ADD because that's much easier than saying ADHD without the hyperactivity. So ADD. I always suspected that I may have had ADD just based on, me being aware of my own symptoms, and especially when I became a teacher and I started working with children that were diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, and I would just observe, because that's one of the things I always felt like I was really good at, is just observing. Sometimes how people come across, whether I was observing specifically for that or just observing, sitting out, observing people watching, etc. However, I didn't go in, just like with my anxiety, depression. Number one, my anxiety, because I was too, afraid to pick up the phone, just had a physical reaction. My stomach hurting and just trembling, that I didn't do that for many years. But I also thought, well, first of all, with my own ignorance, I guess, around the subject of mental health, but then also societal stigmas around mental health, I felt like if I went in and I wasn't diagnosed as ADD, that I was stupid, slow, crazy. Or if I was diagnosed with ADD, I'm stupid, slow, crazy, which is not the case. I was ill-informed in regard to what ADD is, ADHD is, and number one, there are many people who have those traits and are very successful. Teachers, business owners, leaders, companies, etc. It just means that they have these skills and the tools to help them be successful. They've learned to, become more organized or manage their time more efficiently, in spite of, having ADD or ADHD. And I think that's a misconception that people have. Well, obviously with my type as well, but that person can't sit still, they get up all the time, they say things, they blurt things out that are inappropriate, they can't pay attention. Or if you're not like that, then you don't have ADHD, which again, that's why people like myself oftentimes go undiagnosed, because it's, they're quiet, they're shy, they're not fidgeting around, they're not getting up, so they may not have ADD or ADHD. Which is not the case. Some people, again, like myself, do have it. So it might also explain, and I feel, I feel validated. There's clarity now to, what has been afflicting me this past school year and all this time in my life. It explains some things. I think in one of my vlogs I talked about the fact that while I did okay in school, I had to concentrate really hard. I did this 180 in college where I became this overachiever. But part of that had to do with the fact that because I would feel dumb and I felt stupid, comments that were made, unfortunately, by a few either peers or teachers that I had when I was in school, I felt that I had to overcompensate because I didn't want to feel slow. I didn't want to feel stupid. And so I worked really, really hard, and I developed, this system of organization in regard to my note-taking skills. So like highlighting, underlining, color pencils out, book tabs along, that were outlined by chapter. And oftentimes people see this and they think, they feel some way about that. But those were things that helped me to focus, to help me be organized with this condition, at least at the time, that I had no idea that I was living with. And it worked because I did relatively well when I was a student at the University of Texas. And so, over time, I developed skills, like I said, with my anxiety here in school. I became organized because when I was disorganized, my anxiety was just, a 20 out of 10. And so I think, again, the misconception of people who are ADHD, ADD, that they can't focus, that disorganized, etc., those are just all myths. Yes, those things do happen, but if people have systems in place to help them and they have support from loved ones, from their teachers, from their employers to help them out, then they can live successful lives. And then also that person does have to work on their own to make sure that they are trying to learn those skills to be successful and to not let that condition overtake them. However, and I'm kind of all over the place like I normally am, but I decided this year when I went to go get treatment for anxiety and depression, because I noticed that it was creeping up into school. Like, I would say one thing, but I'm writing something else at the same time, or I'm writing something and I'm saying something different. And it became a joke in one of my classes. It happened one time, like I think it was the third week of school, when I made a vlog where I was getting sick. And anytime I made a mistake after that point, like, the kids were like, "Are you sick? You must be sick because you're making these mistakes." And at first, like, I laughed and I giggled with it because I thought it was funny. But then it started happening, not just in that class over and over again, but in all of my classes, where I was making these mistakes that were uncharacteristic of my ability to teach the course, and mistakes that I didn't make when I first started. And of course, as humans, we make mistakes, but I was making mistakes daily. And it just wasn't here at school, it was also at home. I was losing my keys, even though, like, I had a place for my keys, my house keys and my car keys. I would lose my keys practically every day. And it became this thing because I would either have, like, my OCD compulsion where I had to check to make sure certain appliances were unplugged, or, like, I'm gonna go feed my dogs and I place my keys down and then I'm looking for my keys and then having an anxiety attack because I can't find my keys. And it just was one thing after another. And I think, like I said, if you watch my anxiety depression video, I talked about how I felt that my symptoms began to manifest a little bit differently and a little bit more out of my control after I left teaching the first go around, when I took a position at the district level, did graduate school, started teaching paid teachers, became an assistant principal, came back into teaching, started vlogging. And that was also the same thing with my ADD. I just felt like things, especially when I was in the assistant principal role, because I was getting hit from all directions, from, parents, students, teachers, community members, team members, and there just was no time in that role. I mean, there were times where, like, it wasn't busy, but then there were other times where it was really busy and I just did not have time to decompress. And the strategies that I had at the time just were not, I felt, working as best as they could have been, because I didn't know that I was dealing with ADD. And coming back into the classroom last school year and this past year, I realized, okay, my anxieties, I feel like it's getting worse. My depression, I feel like I'm starting to regress. And then I'm like, I think I might have ADD. So when I made the call to go get help after winter break, I did ask to be evaluated for ADD, and recently found out that that's what I have. And so, again, I'm not upset or afraid of revealing that. I am happy to know that that is something that I've been dealing with, because now I have a focus for learning about skills that I can utilize to help me be more productive and more successful. Because I would think that sometimes, like, yeah, like I feel that I'm successful, but I'm not as successful as I could be. And, I would start one thing and not finish it all the way and start something else. And it's funny because the student body awarded me with this award that was the most organized, and the last part was the most organized and the most willing to take up, like, different, like, projects or something like that. And I laugh now because that's how I am, and I have, like, this ringing in my ear. That's how I am. So it's funny that I received that award because just of the conditions that I have. But again, I'm sharing this because I think it's important for the educator community to have discussions and to talk openly about mental health, I know that I'm not the only one that's struggling with anxiety, depression, OCD, ADD/ADHD, and other mental health conditions. And as I said earlier, I didn't seek help in the beginning because I was ill-informed about what these conditions meant. And if I wasn't diagnosed with these particular conditions, then what did that mean for me? And then societal stigma around talking about mental health. And just as a teacher, I also want to make sure, number one, that I understand, my symptoms, that I have those under control for the most part, but then also that I'm aware of what is going on in my classroom with my students, and not to just brush certain behavior off because I have this preconceived notion about, that child is just defiant, or that child is just lazy. Not that I've ever said those things, but I want to be better equipped with being able to support students that may not vocalize these things, because I didn't even let my parents know that I was dealing with anxiety, depression, that they may have perhaps picked up on that, but OCD and not even ADD until recently in my life. So all these years went by, and as a child and as a teenager, I didn't share, my struggles with anxiety, depression. I would just always say things like, "You make the call," or like, "Do we have to go?" I thought they would pick up on those signals. Perhaps maybe, he has anxiety. So I want to get better supporting the students in my classroom, present and past students, and with whatever conditions they might have, even if they don't vocalize it, just making sure that I'm aware of just what is going on in my classroom and how I can better support them, so that way I'm not putting them hopefully in situations that makes them extremely anxious, where they're having an anxiety or panic attack, or they just feel uncomfortable. I'm going to end here. If you watched all the way, then thank you so much. Again, just like my last video, if this has helped at least just one person maybe evaluate their symptoms and perhaps call and get help themselves, then I would have done my job. And hopefully more people in the educator community, whether they're teacher tubers or they are solely on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, begin to talk more about it and have dialogue around mental health. So as always, thanks for watching and supporting me, and I will catch you in the next vlog. Bye. Well, that's it. If there was anything about this video that you liked, then make sure to hit that like button, comment down below, and or share the video. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe so that way you can bond with James. And if you're interested in checking out some of my other vlogs, you can do so by clicking on any of the links right here. As always, thanks for watching.